Welcome back, viewers. Have your multipass at the ready because we're about to jump into a piece of content from yesteryear. It's Zorg from The Fifth Element. Let's rewind back to the golden age of 90s blockbusters, when men were men, film studios took risks, and Bruce Willis starred in actual movies. Or any movies. Is it possible for a joke to be both too late and too soon? This time featuring in a bizarre foreign-made sci-fi, beloved by many and panned by some, including the actor who brings life to today's villain.
Because it's kind of become almost a cult classic.
I know, but that's the wacky world we live in.
A reluctant Gary Oldman brings us the gammy cyberpunk CEO.
Jean-Baptiste, Emmanuel, Zorg.
A titan of future industry, apparently supplying weaponry, but also with interests in a diverse range of other areas, including taxicabs. With a doctrine of chaos and goals so illogical and destructive, he was Peter Baelish before it was uncool. And unsurprisingly, he executes his schemes just as poorly.
Even within chaotic systems, there is a pattern of limited predictability.
Which leaves me no choice but to assume his leg injury and scalp shielding are somehow a result of his own stupidity. Point 1. Zorg is subservient to a powerful anti-life entity because reasons. So get this, every 5,000 years there's a planetary alignment which somehow births a mysterious, intelligent entity intent on the destruction of all life. And the only thing that can stop it, or at least delay it for another 5,000 years, are these 4 stones and a perfect being, the fifth element. And for some unknown reason, Zorg has become something of a lapdog to this thing, signing on to this dark entity's campaign to snatch the stones without a second thought. Wouldn't you be questioning why this seemingly powerful person doesn't have the resources to get the stones themselves? Does he assume this is even a human he is talking to? An alien? He kind of sounds like a Mangalore, and as we soon learn, that's a total red flag.
You'll have what you asked for in a few hours.
Yeah man, this guy who terrifies you, sounding like a straight up demon over the phone, causing you to bleed black blood from your cranium after a minute conversation. That's the guy you should risk everything on.
You must be asking yourself, what if this doesn't work?
Mr. Shadow is even throwing out subtle hints that he has no intention of delivering any kind of cash windfall.
Money is of no importance.
But that kind of messaging is just beyond sycophantic Zorg. It's doubtful Zorg understands the full extent of Mr. Shadow's mission, but he must know something about his intentions, as Zorg uses an ideological belief that destruction creates prosperity as a justification for signing on with Mr. Shadow.
There's hundreds of people who will be able to feed their children tonight, so those children can grow up big and strong and have little teeny-weeny children of their own, and so on and so forth.
So he definitely understands that some type of carnage is on the cards. Before agreeing to get the stones, he could have at the very least sniffed around and found out what his opponents are saying about this whole scenario.
You are wrong.
One thing Zorg does know though, this Mr. Shadow Joker is on his way to Earth. Who's to say Zorg Industries won't be hit hard? Too much destruction and you won't have anyone left to buy all your junk.
Good philosophy.
But since he's 100% committed to Mr. Shadow's ambiguous scheme, Zorg must have pulled out all the stops to make sure he gets his hands on these stones, right? Point 2. Zorg makes unnecessary enemies of dumbass aliens. And yes, for him that's a problem. So Zorg's first big play is to hire alien mercenaries, the Mangalores, who are an impressive force of stupidity unto themselves. But unfortunately, I couldn't feature them in my advanced sci-fi civilization series, because despite being an alien spacefaring species, they seem to be mostly using human tech to do their thing. There's also no evidence they're competent enough to maintain anything close to a civilization. So basically, in order to make fun of them, I've been forced to demote them to villains. So Zorg tasked these idiots with swiping the stones, completely aware of their shortcomings, even poking fun at their silly honor code.
Too narrow-minded, no subtlety, and worse, they fight for hopeless causes. Honor. Honor's killed millions of people, hasn't saved a single one.
I'm sure that won't come back to haunt him. Sending them out in a couple of Zorg ships, which kind of defeats the anonymity gained by hiring mercenaries, but whatever.
My dear Agnat, how were those two little planes that you borrowed?
The Mangalores proceed to completely obliterate the Mondoshawan vessel, which was meant to be carrying the stones. Luckily, the case appears to be made of adamantium or something similar, somehow surviving this catastrophic explosion with only a few scorch marks. If those stones had been destroyed, this campaign would have been over before it had even begun. Then the Mangalores don't even check the case's contents before bringing it in, despite Zorg suggesting this was indeed specified.
You asked for a case. We brought you a case.
Case with 4 stones in it!
And Zorg is having none of this because of course he would never do anything that silly.
I wonder.
Threaten with having their fancy new toys yoinked away from them, the Mangalores get their hackles up and intimidate Zorg into giving them a 1-crate consolation prize. But in reality, Zorg has taken advantage of Mangalore ignorance of his new weaponry, letting them blow the crap out of themselves and presumably the crate of weapons he left with them. Wait, is this how Zorg got his injuries? I mean, this is just an idiotic place to put a self-destruct button. He's probably killing half his customers with this disastrous feature.
Bada bang boom.
So Zorg makes unnecessary enemies of the Mangalores for no reason other than to protect his pride. He was resigned to losing a crate of ZF-1s regardless of the outcome. He could have just given the Mangalores what they wanted and wrapped up this whole incident in a bow. Instead, Zorg inspires the Mangalores into a movie-long vendetta against him.
Revenge is at hand.
I suppose for any normal person, having a group of asinine aliens on your case wouldn't be all that bad. But unfortunately for Zorg, his abilities don't match his confidence levels. And so for him, this scenario could have some serious repercussions. Point 3. Zorg's half-assed campaign to swipe the stones backfires majorly. So before Zorg gets stuck into his own campaign to seize the stones, we get a small bit of insight into his day-to-day business dealings. And this dude is such a dastardly corporate bastard, he's bordering on being a cliche.
The council is worried about the economy heating up. They wondered if it'd be possible to fire 500,000.
Fire 1 million.
Deciding to double the sacking quota based on some feelings the board members had, singling out his taxi companies to cut the fat. But wait, why would you sack all these people if it wasn't completely necessary? Taxis are literally the earning vehicles of that industry. If the demand exists, cutting workers unnecessarily would just mean you get less profit. Even if you have zero consideration for your employees' well-being at all, surely it would be better to monitor the economic conditions for now. But hey, Zorg needs to destroy things on a regular basis or his facial tic starts flaring up, so those workers have to go.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Little did Zorg know, he ends up sacking Corbin Dallas, contributing to his decision to rejoin the armed forces and hunt for the stones himself. Next up, Zorg has an awkward little choking episode, which some people might consider low-hanging fruit, but luckily I'm not one of them.
Where's the robot to pat you on the back?
Yeah, it was a harsh life lesson in his over-reliance on technology, but worst of all, he missed that he had a perfectly good low-tech chair to perform a self-Heimlich maneuver on.
You know? And he must pop, pop, pop!
And what is up with this pretentious cherry and water drink, and why is he downing it like a shot of vodka? Dude got what he deserved.
I know.
So with Cornelius coming to his rescue, we get a rare nice guy moment from Zorg, letting Cornelius go when he previously seemed intent on killing him.
You saved my life, and in return I'll spare yours.
But in terms of the mission, why not go with the middle ground? At least detain the guy, especially when he's making it super obvious he knows something about these stones.
Where are the stones?
I don't know. And even if I did know, I wouldn't tell somebody like you.
So after his little Mangalore excursion fails, you'd think Zorg would throw everything he has at Mr. Shadow's all-important mission, maybe even oversee it himself. But no, he delegates the entire operation to his right-hand man, Right Arm, who does have limited success with some cockroach-based surveillance, gaining solid intel on the whereabouts of the stones, which ends up being the only thing about this entire operation that actually goes right. So now Zorg needs to find a way to get onto the space cruise ship Floston Paradise.
No, thank you.
And for some reason, this filthy rich, influential leader of industry can't even wrangle himself a few tickets on short notice. No, he has to jack someone for theirs.
Multipass.
Rather than targeting some of the more low-key passengers for their tickets, instead he decides to assume the identity of the most publicly exposed of all Floston Paradise ticket holders. winner of a competition hosted by a radio show with an average listenership of over 50 billion.
Unbelievable!
Zorg should be thankful his boy failed to get through customs, because that would have been a disaster. And wait, he can blow up a random public phone, but he can't wrangle himself a few cruise ship tickets? Finally, Zorg decides to get his hands dirty, flying directly to Floston Paradise and bullshitting his way on board. Surprise, surprise, the Mangalores are still around, causing mayhem, continuing to pursue the stones as a means of getting revenge on Zorg.
Do your people possess technology which could have transported you here?
So Zorg rocks up and snatches a case which looks like it might contain stones, before setting an explosive and leaving the ship immediately. Wait, so Zorg here is guilty of precisely the same thing he criticized the Mangalores for.
I am very disappointed!
Check the damn box before you get out of here, before you blow the whole place to hell.
What was that? It was bad. It had nothing, no fire, no energy.
Can't Zorg feel the weight difference between an empty case and one filled with stones? He should have immediately known there's nothing in there. And what is the point of blowing up Floston Paradise anyway? As a weapons developer, he must surely know this vessel has bomb detectors, info even Ruby Rod is privy to.
The alarms will go off because all these hotels have bomb detectors.
It's very unlikely this blast will kill his opponents. It's a course of action which serves no logical purpose, and it's bound to draw unwanted attention.
Couldn't think of anything a little more discreet, huh?
Ah, the old benefiting from destruction ideology thing. So what, is he running salvage crews out here or something? How the hell do you plan on profiting from this? I bet at least some of these VIPs are buying weapons from Zorg Industries, and we wouldn't want them dead.
To my right, a row of ministers, more ministers than ministers.
Eventually Zorg realizes his error and rushes back to stop the countdown, making it in the nick of time. It's weird that he had to physically come all the way back here. Despite his affinity for weaponry, his crappy little bomb has no remote. Even the Mangalore's explosive is superior.
There is so much to learn for each of us today, isn't there?
Zorg had every chance to just pack it in, give it up, go home, ignore Mr. Shadow's requests. But instead, he is roundly defeated by the very brutes he put himself on a collision course with. Collateral damage in their attempt to reclaim some honor.
For the honor.
A fitting death which Zorg himself predicted.
Honor. Honor's killed millions of people, hasn't saved a single one.
But the best part of this grisly end has to be the fact it's purely thanks to Zorg's own errors he winds up dead and defeated. At no point did Zorg enter into direct conflict with our main protagonist, and aside from the Floston boarding dramas, nothing the protagonist did had any sort of direct effect on him. Yet somehow he's still lost. And that might be a first and possibly last for villains too stupid to win.